we see a lot of construction. There is actually a lot of construction happening in the real estate world. 80% of new housing being built in America right now is multifamily. What's going on, DeRosa Insiders? This is Matt Faircloth, and welcome, capital W, welcome to the Cash Flow Digest. My name is Matt. Our company's called the DeRosa Group, and we're a real estate company dedicated to transforming lives through real estate, doing big things here at DeRosa. Yet again, we've got another great episode teed up for you guys here for the Cash Flow Digest. Please take a minute by giving this episode a good review, a 5-star rating, in whatever way you choose to give this episode some love. If you guys are lucky enough to be a member of our DeRosa Insiders community, and you guys are watching this program live, where we go every Friday at noon Eastern, every Friday morning. I'm super, super grateful for you guys. We've got thousands of people in the DeRosa Insiders community. Go to Facebook right now and join DeRosa Insiders, DeRosa Insiders on Facebook, and join that community. It is free because it is an awesome community that we put out there as a thank you, as a give back to those that are following us. Gratitude and thank you if you guys are watching on Insiders. Either way you guys are watching, thanks for being a part of this program. If you guys have noticed, I've lost my voice because this is what happens when you run around VPCon for a couple of days straight and drink lots of coffee and lots of other stuff and have lots of fun and talk to lots of people and have lots of laughs and probably talk in big, loud rooms. That's just what we had to do the last couple of days. So I'm a little hoarse, but I'm still mad. First thing I want to talk to you guys about today is something going on in the market. And we see a lot of construction. There is actually a lot of construction happening in the real estate world. And what's funny is because a lot of it didn't happen for the longest time in real estate. They attribute that to the crash of 2008. The market falls apart. And I was an active investor in 2008, so I witnessed it firsthand. It burns so many developers. I remember there being real estate developments that were halfway done, just halfway finished, and the developer maybe went bankrupt, lost their money, or just turned in the keys back to the bank and walked away from the development project. There was so much money lost in things that were almost done in 2008, condo towers, real estate, like open track developments, all that stuff. All took years and years and years for the market to absorb. That halfway done condo building might have sat there for years until someone came along and the bank took a major haircut and they finished it. Well, that burned everyone. It burned the banks. It burned the developers. It burned certainly the equity, probably burned Wall Street quite a bit too in its involvement in that as well. So for the longest time, there was no new housing being built in America. And that's one of the reasons why we have such a major housing shortage, is because we got way behind. There was a housing shortage then, meaning like there were more people that needed places to live than there were places to live, right? And that's been the fact today as well. So that was a fact of 2008. And that was something that we were trying to absorb in the going up and through the boom of 2008. But then things continue to build up. There's more and more housing needed while we stop building houses. From like about 2008 all the way up to about 2013, 14, there's a very, very low stagnancy in housing. And it became one of those things where those that had the courage to get forth and put shovels in the ground immediately had their developments absorbed. So new multifamily apartment buildings that were getting built got absorbed right away. New housing for sale got absorbed right away. There was new technology such as modular housing and all that came into the space. And those things existed already, but they became more popular in the 2014, 15, 16 range. Then more and more stuff gets built up and we start catching up with things. But what was interesting that's happening now is there's a slant because multifamily became so hot and became such a great place for people to make money. More and more housing that got built is getting slanted towards multifamily, where now the article we want to share with you guys, and this is an interesting conversation and maybe something that you as investors can do something about, is 80% of new housing being built in America right now is multifamily. How interesting is that, right? And there's more commentary I have on it, right? That to me, that's interesting. And I think that means that, well, that's what we need. And it's a good thing because we need more multifamily housing, given how high interest rates are right now with regards to what it's going to cost someone to buy a home. I've heard today it'll cost you upwards of 8% to buy a house. I can tell you many, many Americans borrowed money at way less than that. It's a good thing that we're building more multifamily housing, right? It is perhaps interesting that it's upwards of 80% of the units being built in America right now are multifamily. And perhaps it leans towards a glut on the high side. Now, those are not built yet. Here's a few thoughts that active investors like us can take from this, right? Unless you're building subsidized housing, right? You're building A-class. That's what you are. You're building A-class housing. And so all those units being built, and the reason for there's a longer reason for that, but in essence, if you're going to go build something new, you might as well build it really, really, really nice. You might as well, because it's going to only cost you a fraction more to build A-class housing. So everything being built is at the top of the market with regards to what rents it's going to be charging. And also because the construction cost to build now is going to warrant you guys needing to rent these things out for a lot of money. And so there is a major requirement for, to get a lot of rent for new construction. And so it's going to be A-class. So that means that there's a lot of A-class housing coming into the market. Okay. If you are a owner of A-class housing, meaning like super top of the frame stuff, I would be cautious and look out for cranes in the air, or air quote cranes in the air, new construction happening near your A-class housing property. It could be like a duplex, or it could be something small, single family home. If there's lots of new construction around where you are, you may start seeing pressure in rents because those developers that are building big apartment buildings are going to need to absorb it. They're going to need to see those things get leased up. So they're going to be doing lots of leasing specials, and they're going to be pushing lots of marketing and stuff like that. So be cautious of your rents. Be cautious of what you have on the market. If you own something already, there's lots of things being built. If you don't have that right now, then maybe you can rest assured that maybe you're going to be okay, but also just keep in mind for other things being built on the market. Now, if you are not an A-class investor, but you're looking to invest in real estate where there is a lot of stuff being built already, I would run to the bottom. There's always room at the bottom. I would be in the C-class level of housing, or B-class level of housing, because if there's a big glut of lots of A-class stuff, not everyone's going to want to pay that A-class rent. And those A-class units are going to push onto the market and going to drive rents down a little bit. But there's still going to be a community of people that aren't going to want to pay those A-class rents, even if a lot of it's coming on. And so there's going to be a need, even more so, for C-class. And so I think this is yet another testament for C-class housing, which is what DeRosa does a bit of. And we also do some B-class stuff too. And so I think it's interesting. Last thing is, people still, believe it or not, as high as interest rates are, people still would like to buy houses. And so if you are a fix and flipper, or if you are creating housing for ownership, I think this is an opportunity for you to find creative ways to have people still buy your house. Because if there's 10 units being built around where you live, the odds are 8 of them are going to be for rent. Only 2 are going to be for sale. I think that this is slanted too far in one direction. I think we've gone too heavy in the housing for rent space and new things being built. And so I think that if you are creating housing for sale, I think that this is a benefit to you, because although people are going to have to pay lots of money in mortgage rates and things like that, there are people that are going into buying a house, maybe with a lot of equity from a house that they just sold. Maybe you as the developer can help them by buying down their interest rate. You can do that. Just so you guys know, there's dollars that you can pay to reduce someone's effective interest rate on a mortgage that they get. So maybe that's something you could include in your home sales. That's what new people that are building new housing, like D.R. Horton and those guys, they are effectively buying down people's interest rates. So if you buy a D.R. Horton house, you're not going to pay 8%. You might pay like 4 or 5, because D.R. Horton is burying in the price of the house a mortgage interest rate reduction. So maybe you can do that too for your fix and flips. So I think that there's kind of riches in the niches. And so the niche that's shown up these days is houses for sale. 20% of the market's houses for sale. Maybe if you're in that niche, maybe that's going to benefit you. That's what I got for today, guys, on today's current event. Leave some comments if you guys like what I had to say on this. I'm going to bring it in the cavalry. We'll bring her in first because I love her. She's got the best last name ever. Tara Smiley joining me today. What's up, Tara? How are you?
How you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm spectacular. Fancy seeing you. I saw you just a couple days ago at BPCon, right? And we're going to be bringing in the Herve Francois. How are you, Herve?
Very well, thank you.
You two with your fancy backgrounds. Guys, thank you for being here. Herve and Tara, what do you guys think about what I talked about before? I talked a second ago about 80%. Herve, isn't that crazy? 80% of units being built in America right now is multifamily, right? Is for, let's just say in essence, for rent. My guess is that does include like tract developments of single family homes that are being built for lease as well. Right. You're my market dude, man. What do you think of that? Is that oversaturation? Is the pendulum swung too far in the rental direction? What do you think?
I don't think it's oversaturation, Matt. And if you wanted to drill into it, you probably have to look at, where is a lot of that construction taking place. And my guess would be a lot of what I've seen out there so far, it's been in a lot of those larger metro cities, particularly in the Sunbelt areas, that had seen a lot of demand and rent growth soar over the past couple of years. One of the reasons was due to lack of inventory. We got to remember, it was only a couple of years ago, right? We were saddled with the pandemic. And because of that, developers have pumped the brakes on construction, right? And we all know, whether you're doing single family or multifamily, it's not like you flip on the construction switch today and then boom, it's completed tomorrow, right? This all takes months. When they finally did go ahead and start the construction, then you're hit with boom, lumber prices up 40% year over year. You can't build with that. Raw material prices don't work into the construction. That equation just did, the math wasn't mathing, right? With lumber prices up 40%. So then they had to pause again. So now you're seeing these, like you said, cranes in the sky. Where are you seeing it? You're seeing it in Tampa. You're seeing it in Phoenix. You're seeing it in Dallas. You're seeing it in Austin. You're seeing it in Houston, and so on and so forth. Where, yes, those areas definitely need more supply, but that supply obviously is causing rents to either flatline or decline. And I have to tell, investors that have invested in those cities over the past 3, 4, 5 years, they really shouldn't be crying right now, because these same investors were benefiting from investments in apartment complexes that were showing 15, 20, in some areas, 20 to 25% rent growth in a single year, right? So they were cheering that on, knowing very well that that is not normalized rent growth in any market in
No.
any year, right? So what you're having now is you got to take your medicine. You're taking your medicine right now. That's all. That's what you got to fix. And the medicine just doesn't taste that good. Okay, it's a little bit like Robitussin when you're sick, and that's what you got to take right now with some Robitussin. And so that's what you're dealing with right now. But
so you're saying that maybe certain markets are overbuilt. You're right. Like the United States of America is not one market. The United States of America is probably like 20,000 markets, right?
Yeah.
That's well said. And there might not be cranes across the air all across America. There's probably a lot of cranes in a few places, right? You're also saying that maybe some of these cranes got into the air when lumber was a little cheaper or when things were a little different, right? And so now they got to finish what you started, right? Tara, what are your thoughts? 80% of units being built in America right now are some form of multifamily. What are your thoughts? How does it affect our industry?
So I think it does a lot of fantastic things for industry. Like Herve said, you're going to take your medicine. Those of the population that were making their money in the last 2 to 3 years, well, I need you right now to live off the glut that you earned 3 years ago, right? We're getting back to normal. I think, we see and we read all the time about, just a lack of affordable housing. And I'm excited to see that a lot of the new builds that are coming out there right now, like they're Class A because of, their build date and their amenities. But we are seeing that a lot of them aren't premium leases. These are not the 4,000 square foot, $1.50 a square foot apartment. Like there's a lot of affordable options going up. And then the neat thing is that as this is taking place in tier 1 markets, you're seeing influx of people who are also looking for tier 2 markets because you're running out of land space in tier 1s.
Yep.
So for investors, like that are part of our crew, and for our company, we're benefiting from that as well because we're seeing an influx of people that want to live in our markets. And now our product is all that in a bag of chips. So you're really seeing Class B and Class C units all over the place that are driven into demand. It's fantastic.
That's interesting. Let's go there for a second, right? Not everybody wants to live in the downtown part of a tier 1 market, right? Like not everybody can afford to pay straight, Tara, like tell me $4,000 a month maybe for living in downtown Raleigh, right over top of like a nightclub or whatever. That's a cool spot to live. And I sure wish I lived there when I was 23, but at the end of the day, I can't raise my family living there, right? And so there is a heavy push on A class in downtown cores of tier 1 markets, right? And this maybe that pendulum has swung too far in one direction, right? But maybe the pendulum is still right where it's supposed to be in other tiered markets, and maybe we still need B and A class housing in tertiaries. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we do. We definitely need some, more supply of B and C classes. The country needs more affordable housing across.
Yes.
The country. That goes without saying. There is a shortage of about 45 million single-family homes across the country that may not get filled for another 3 to 4 years. That's how much we are really, really behind, right? The average cost of a home a few years ago, median price was about $240,000. Today, that is $420,000. So we are seeing a lot of folks holding back, young couples specifically, that are holding back on purchasing their new home because they don't have enough of that down payment. That on top of that, you're gonna have to throw out now an 8% mortgage rate. Earlier, just a couple of months ago, a 7% mortgage rate. And I got to throw out an 8% mortgage rate. We have highest mortgage rates in 5 years. I would love to see more B and C class multifamily into secondary markets. But then you look at the math of the developers, if you will, and they can't justify building just
you
class
can't build,
B and C.
You can't build C class. You're not going to build to the middle class earned income rate. On new construction. It's partly because of, just developers want to make money, but also has to do with the cost of lumber, cost of plumbing, cost of labor, right? And so what I think will happen is you might see new construction happen in tertiaries where the economies are increasing, but you're going to attract the top end of the market. And then what that does is the person that's living in a C class or a B class ends up doing a life upgrade and moving to an A, right? And that unit opens up, and then that unit gets absorbed by somebody that's coming up or something like that, right? So I don't, unless you're building subsidized using LIHTC or something like that, I don't see you building to the median of the market.
No.
Well, so the only thing that I'll say, guys, is that I was reading an article and they were talking just about that, right? Like we're not doing new development of B and C class, except that this author challenged the theory about like when you are doing conversions from, a large warehouse, a mall, an old school, hotels, that we need to start thinking about that as new build for affordable. Because you are taking it from something it was not to something new. And I thought that was a neat concept of how to think about, an affordable new build.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. And I
Yeah.
think that we'll see more of that. I'd love if DeRosa got involved one day, not today, one day into conversion work, because I think there's so many real estate spaces in America that are currently designed to be this thing, but we don't need whatever that thing is anymore, right? Whether it's like a B-class office building out in the middle of nowhere, or like an office building right off the exit of a highway, that just, we don't need that much office space. We don't need that much retail space or warehouse or office or whatever. If you look at DeRosa Group owns several assets now that used to be something else. Both of them used to be factories, right? And unfortunately, because we don't make as much stuff in America anymore, and because we don't make stuff in the same environment that we used to, right? So we don't need these super big brick and mortar factories with big glass windows because they didn't have as much interior lighting or electricity, right? So they've got this enormous window so they can have lighting, right? We don't make stuff in that fashion anymore. And so we can take old factories and turn them into apartment buildings. We did do that already in America. That happened years ago. So maybe there's use of something else. I still think B-class office buildings could be phenomenal housing spaces with the right equation. And again, it's complex, it's hairy, it's messy, but for someone that can figure it out, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for that. And I agree with you, Tara, because you could acquire the building for less per square foot than it would take to build that asset. So the beauty is in acquiring below replacement cost. If you can do that, then you can bring it up to housing level, perhaps to a point that your development cost is much less and you can charge less. And then you really serve the need, right?
Well, and this author's push was that if you can, especially go after old schools, you're already kind of, part of the biggest issue that we have is finding the right market, right? It's got to be the right location, because there's only so much lipstick you can put on a pig, right? So location sells. And if you can go to a school district and find prime and central locations for where they had placements of schools, okay, well, half that battle is kind of already done. So Herve, find me an old high school.
Schools are amazing. Schools are. I've been in some old school, like 1920s converted schoolhouses into apartment buildings, and they come off really cool. I was in one in South Jersey, Tara, where they left in the blackboards, right? How cool is that? And so you live in your apartment, and there's a big old blackboard on the wall. Your kids are just gonna go bananas for that, right? Like, morning, mom, right? So cool. Hey guys, that's awesome. Thank you for your contribution to this. I appreciate your thoughts. Yet another great cash flow digest. Make sure you guys join us next Friday at noon Eastern Standard, because that's where we're gonna be. We're gonna be here. Where are you gonna be? Be here noon Eastern Standard on the DeRosa Insiders Facebook page. Thank you for spending your time with us today, and you watching. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon, guys. Hey guys, Matt Faircloth here. Thank you for listening again to the Cash Flow Digest. I really appreciate you guys doing that. If you guys want to hear more about what DeRosa Group has to offer, go to DeRosa Group, DeRosa Group.com, DeRosaGroup.com online. You can hear about all the great things that we offer from an educational standpoint and passive investment standpoint on our website. See you there. And if you guys want to join our online community, DeRosa Insiders on Facebook, where you can watch this program get recorded every Friday at noon Eastern, and you can come on as even a guest or ask questions on the show. We hope to see you guys on our online community, DeRosa Insiders. See you there.